Jurors entering, all rise, please. Court is now in session. Please be seated.
And if we could have Dr. Zane, please.
Okay, Doctor, before lunch, we were going through the wounds that you cataloged. I'd like to continue with that. Before we do that, can you note on the board the number of the wounds as you catalog them?
Yes.
Your Honor, may he step down?
Please.
Okay, and I see you made a little notation key on the top left of that diagram. Can you just explain that to the jury, please?
Yes, I've, to make it a little bit more understandable, I put a solid dot for entrance, a X for exit, and a square for bullet.
Okay. So moving on, I believe the next catalog wound would be number 4. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, can you describe that wound to the jury, please?
There was a gunshot entrance wound on the left right of the thigh, approximately when I'm pointing on my body. This was a entrance site for a wound that went into the body. Let's see. It went into the skin muscle, and then hit the pelvis, pelvic wall on that side, and it stopped.
And was a round recovered from that wound?
Yes, it was. It was a bullet there.
And looking at the board, photos 4A and 4B, can you look at those and explain them to the jury, please?
This is the left side of the thigh, and it's at the bottom is a round defect, which is red. That's the wound I'm talking about. There's a darker oval wound that I'm not talking about now, but we'll be talking about it at a later time. And then 2 other marks, which are scrapes.
And 4B?
Envelope that's noted from the pelvic cavity. It's not my handwriting, but it's the envelope that the projectile was put in.
Okay. Is that a fair photo of the round that was recovered from that wound?
Yes.
And handing you an object, you can look at that.
So it's an envelope, same envelope. The autopsy and the projectile, the same projectile.
This is the same projectile as depicted in 4B?
That were put a very good copy.
Offer this as an
No objection.
Next number exhibit.
Five.
Sir, now I'm going to transition to exhibit number 81. Could you describe the 5th wound that you cataloged?
More so on the head above the wound I just described. You haven't seen it in the photograph yet. It was a gunshot wound. And for the purpose of court, I'm out pointing to the back, sort of my left hip, where this wound was. It was a gunshot entrance wound, and there was a wound pad, which resulted in discovering a bullet that went through soft tissue, muscle, and lodged deep in the back.
And can you mark that on the diagram, please?
And for the purpose of court, just make two notations.
And indicating on the photo board, can you look at photos 5A and 5B?
Okay. This is a photograph taken at the time of the autopsy that day, and there are several things we see. There's my hand with a ruler and 3 defects. I'm now going to point to the defect that I'm describing. And for the purpose of the court, I'm pointing to a defect of the lower 3. There are other defects here that will be described another time.
Okay. And 5B?
That's a bullet base that was covered from the left hip wound.
Sir, I'm showing you an object, if you can look at this. Do you recognize that item?
This is an envelope that is one that's seen in the photo. This is a bullet base that's also seen in the photo.
That's the same item that was recovered from that wound?
Yes.
And I'd like to offer this proof.
Bill check.
Next number exhibit, please.
Number 86.
And in 5B, the orange object that's seen next to the round, any idea what that is?
I apologize. I don't know. You'd have to ask a firearms expert.
Was that also found in the wound?
Yes.
Now, before we move on, turning back to photo 5A, you had indicated just a minute ago that there were other wounds other than the one you were describing. Turning to the 11th injury that you cataloged, can you describe that for the jury?
There was a gunshot wound that involved superficial layers of subcutaneous. So it went into the skin of the back and then it immediately exited the skin of the back. And for the purpose of the court, I'm now pointing to the middle defect as to where the entrance is. And I'm also pointing to the defect that shows the exit.
And the exit, is that the one that's closer or farther away to the ruler in the photograph?
The exit wound is underneath the ruler in the photograph.
And can you mark that on the diagram, please? Any projectile recovered from wound number 11?
No, it was perforated, meaning in and out. It was perforated, meaning in and out.
Okay. Turning to wound number 6, can you describe that for the jury, please?
There was a gunshot wound on the left thigh. We've already seen a photo of it and we show it again. For the purposes of the court, now we're pointing on my left thigh, approximate area where this was.
Okay. And can you mark that on the diagram, please?
I just made 2 notations on the board. Put a solid dot and a X. This is a gunshot wound that resulted in, went through the skin of the thigh, went through soft tissue, and then came out the anterior surface of the thigh, and it resulted in injury to skin and soft tissue.
And, sorry,
No projectile was recovered.
from the 6th wound?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yes.
Yes, a bullet was recovered, or no bullet was recovered?
No,
Sir, would you like to see a copy of your report, or do you have one there?
just thank the court's patience. I just jumped ahead to the 7th wound, so I bypassed the 6th wound.
Okay. Okay, so let's, just for clarity's sake, let's start over again. The 6th wound, where did that wound occur?
That wound was in the right chest. It was 21 inches below the top of the head and 4 inches to the right of the anterior midline.
Can you mark that on the diagram? And just for clarity's sake, I know you had marked something earlier as the 6th wound. Was that actually the 7th that you were drawn on there?
Yes, I'd like to make a correction.
Could you please? And as to the 6th wound, was a fragment or a bullet recovered from the 6th wound?
Yes, there was a small fragment.
And if you can look at the photograph labeled 6A, what do we see on 6A?
We see 4 defects, and I'm now going to point to the defect from the 6th wound, or the one to the right anterior chest, pointing to the left side of the diagram, a small rounded wound. There is 2 other wounds and a scrape there in the wound as well. The purpose of court, I'm pointing to the top of the photograph, where there was a scrape or abrasion.
So the one we're concerned with right now, is that the wound on the leftmost side of the photograph?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated earlier that there was a round recovered. Do you see a photograph of that on the board?
Yes, the 6th wound was to the right chest, and it went in and stopped at the ribs, and it was located under the 7th rib. For the purpose of the court, I'm now pointing to the projectile.
Okay. And on that photograph, there's a handwritten notation there. Did you write that?
No.
Okay. Where it says at the end 7 ICS, do you have some familiarity with what that would mean?
7th intercostal space, which means under the 7th rib.
Okay. And I'm showing you an item. If you can look at the item, please.
This is the fragment that is depicted in the picture.
And the one that was recovered from the 6th wound?
That's right.
Offer as an exhibit, please.
Objection.
X number exhibit, please.
Number 87.
Okay, doctor, now moving on to the 7th. Can you describe the 7th wound?
7th wound is the wound to the back of excuse me. There's a wound to the left thigh. Bruce support now pointing on my left thigh, the approximate area where this was.
And can you describe the path and the injury caused by that wound? By that shot, excuse me.
That's the wound that went through the leg, soft tissue, and came out the anterior thigh. I've already made a notation. I've drawn a picture of an X with a 7 next to it.
Any projectile recovered from the 7th wound?
No.
And can you look at 7A and 7B and describe those to the jury?
This shows the left leg and thumb. At the top, you see a wound that was measured 34 inches below the top. I already described it. The next wound we point to is the wound that's number 7, which was 38 inches below the top of the head. And then there are 2 defects at the bottom of the wound, I mean the thigh or leg, and those are scrapes or abrasions.
And 7B?
This is Ms. Trubinica's groin region. And in the photograph, on the right side, you see a defect that's almost triangular. It's yellow and red. That's the exit. Also, there's a scrape towards the left side of the diagram, or abrasion.
Turning to the 8th wound that you cataloged, could you describe that for the jury, please?
Although the right leg, there was a gunshot entrance and exit wound on the right leg. The entrance was located 11 inches above the heel, and it's irregularly shaped, and it was towards the inside of the frame. I'd like to look at the photo and I'll make notations on the board after I look at the photo.
Sure. If you could look at the photo.
So this is a gunshot wound. It went through the skin and soft tissue, superficially, and exited on the back of the leg. So it was kind of like on the inside of the leg. It came on the back.
Okay. And on this photograph, I know you would have viewed it for yourself, but can you point out to the jury, there's a pointer behind that easel, it might be easier. Where in this photograph you see the entrance and the exit wounds for that?
This is the left leg. I'm right leg I'm pointing to. And the defect at the bottom that I'm pointing to now is the entrance. And the exit is on the back and the calf region.
Moving on to the 9th. Before I move on to the 9th, any rounds recovered from, or fragments recovered from that wound?
No.
Moving on to the 9th, could you describe that for the jury?
This was a regular wound almost in the same area. A little, the same type of wound, only it was a little lot higher on the leg. Located 14 inches from the heel and the right side. midline was a typical gunshot wound. That I'll put in after I put the photo.
And would you look at the photo now, please?
Okay, we see the inside of the left leg below the knee. You just said it's higher up. We don't see the other injury that I just described. The purpose is put now pointing to the entrance wound below the knee, and then now pointing to the exit wound through number 9.
And just for clarity's sake, a second ago you said left leg. Is this the left or the right leg?
And then the right leg.
Could you draw that on the diagram, please? Any rounds or fragments recovered from that wound?
No.
Right. And finally, the 10th. Could you describe that for the jury, please?
Yeah, on the left side of the abdomen, there was a wound, okay, 25 inches below the top of the head. I'm now pointing my left abdomen where this wound was. And then what happened was there was a wound packed with the skin and soft tissue, and then an exit on the other side, on the right side, and it was a split right exit. And I'll show you the photo. And we'll go back to exit. Excuse me, if you will go back to 5A, is it?
We'll look at it. I believe we're going to be looking at 6A. But to start, can you look at 10A, please? And
Yeah. This is the left side of the abdomen. And the larger defect in the center is the entrance, the gunshot wound to the abdomen.
And if you look at 6A, see if you recognize anything out of that photo.
There's a defect in the center of the photograph, which is linear, and that's the right side of the abdomen. That's below the gunshot wound to the right chest.
And could you mark that on the board, please? Okay. Now, doctor, you remember testifying already about the 11th wound earlier, correct?
Yes.
So at this point, is that board that you've been marking fairly cataloged the wounds that you observed on that day?
Yes.
Offer that as an exhibit, please.
Offered.
Still object.
Next number exhibit, formally marked for identification.
Thank you, sir. You can resume the witness now.
Number 88.
Okay, sir, other than the gunshot wounds that you just cataloged, did you observe other sort of injuries about the body in general?
Yes.
And generally, what kinds of injuries were those?
There were scrapes or abrasions, evidence of, impact with a slightly roughened surface, or possibly an injury caused by something from an from a object in between the victim and the end of the barrel of the gun.
Was there anything about the gunshot wounds, specifically the gunshot entrance wounds that you observed, that would be suggestive of an intermediary object?
Yes, there was.
Could you describe that for the jury, please?
The bullet usually travels spinning in space like a football. If it hits an object, it automatically starts to tumble, and when it enters, it doesn't leave a round, punched-out wound. Instead, it may leave a tear or tissue that's triangular shaped.
And did you see that in this case?
Yes.
Other than the items already introduced into evidence, were there any other foreign items or foreign material in and about the body?
There were.
And can you generally describe those, please?
There was at least 2 blood fragments in the bag that she was brought into the office by.
Okay. And you indicated when the body arrives, it's clothed, correct?
Yes,
Did you see those clothes?
I believe I did, yes.
And did you make note of any defects in those clothes relative to the wounds that you observed?
I'd have to go back to my notes.
Sure, if you would refer to your report, please.
Yes, I did.
What did you observe?
There was a pajamas, there was a T-shirt and a pajama bottom, and I just made notations that there are defects consistent with these wounds that I've described. Other people do other tests on those clothes.
And you indicated earlier that there were 2 rounds not found in the body. I'm going to show you a couple of items, if you could just look at those.
Okay, one envelope, there's an envelope with my handwriting on it that says floor, and then a piece of bullet lead, it's about 1/8 of an inch. And that was recovered in the process of undressing her or initially moving her. The second envelope has an envelope in it that says right leg in my handwriting. And a very small piece of lead that was covered under the leg from the bag.
Offer these, please.
Offered.
No objection.
Next number exhibits.
'89 and '90.
Thank you.
Now, doctor, at the conclusion of your examination, were you able to form an opinion as to the cause of death?
Yes,
And what is that opinion, sir?
that the cause of death was lacerations and perforations of the lungs and the aorta due to gunshot wounds of the chest.
And of the wounds you described earlier, which of those wounds are responsible for those injuries?
The first 2 that I described, the one that went in the left shoulder and the one that went under and behind the left arm.
And are you able to form an opinion as to the approximate time interval between the onset of injury and death?
Yes,
Could you describe that for the jury?
it would be seconds.
And sir, at the completion of your examination, do you issue any forms or certificates?
Yes,
And what would that be?
it's a Massachusetts death certificate.
I'm showing you a document. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, it's a printout of a death certificate
For whom?
for Lisa Tribanikova.
And are you the certifier on that?
I am.
Offer that as an exhibit.
By agreement, no objection.
Next number exhibit, please.
I could have one moment, Your Honor.
Please.
Sir, other than the process we just described, did you conduct a full internal and external autopsy?
Yes.
And was there anything of note in that process that you would need to report?
I don't believe so, no.
Thank you.
Cross-examination if you wish.
Sir, you indicated the injury or the wound that struck the aorta was primary cause of death,
Yes.
and death occurred in mere seconds.
Seconds, maybe more.
Nothing further.
All set?
Sir, that would be from when that wound was inflicted, correct?
That's right.
Nothing.
Thank you, sir. You may step aside. Thank you.
Trooper Steve Walsh, please. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Sir, would you please raise your right hand? Solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the court, the jury, which is not only true and formal, and the defendant at the bar shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. With your permission, I'll leave that tripod set up because we might actually be able to use it with this witness. Sir, in a nice loud voice, could you state your name and could you spell your last name?
My name is Stephen J. Walsh. It's Stephen with the PH, W-A-L-S-H.
And how are you employed, sir?
I work for the Massachusetts State Police.
Apparently, what capacity?
I'm a lieutenant. I work in the Forensic Services Group, which is the crime lab, and I'm a supervisor for the ballistics section, the firearms identification section.
And how long have you been with the state police?
24 years.
And how long have you been in the ballistics section?
Over 18 years.
And could you just describe to the jurors, please, what exactly is ballistics?
Ballistics, or firearms identification, is a subdiscipline of tool marks identification. Tool mark identification is the theory of when two metal objects come in contact, if there are unique marks on one of the objects, it will impart those unique marks on another object. That applies for firearms identification. Firearms, rifles, shotguns, handguns, when they're manufactured, during the manufacturing process, the tools that manufacture these firearms, the parts of the firearms, they're very hard metals, and they use very high pressures, and there's grinding and milling and cutting. During that process, unique microscopic marks are imparted from the tools to the firearms. And then when the firearms shoot the ammunition, those microscopic marks are now imparted upon the ammunition. What we do in firearms identification is we attempt to identify whether this bullet, this spent projectile, or this discharged cartridge casing, or something usually called a shell casing in the vernacular, was that fired from this questioned weapon, and we use those unique microscopic marks that occur during manufacturing to make the identification. And we use a compound microscope, a comparison microscope, excuse me, to do that.
And is it also a part of the ballistics section to test fire weapons?
Yes.
And tell us what that means.
When we test fire a weapon, we're attempting to see if the weapon will function. We have a test fire room in each one of the sub-labs and in the main lab. In this instance, I was assigned to the Lakeville sub-lab, that they have a water tank in that particular lab. When we have a weapon we want to test fire, we'll bring it into the test fire room and we'll shoot the weapon into the water tank. The water is dense enough that will slow the bullet down, but it won't cause damage to the bullet.
And what about whether an item is or is not ammunition?
If it has the components of ammunition, it's ammunition, and the components of ammunition are the bullet or the projectile, which would be sitting on top of basically an empty can. That would be the casing, and within that is the propellant or gunpowder, And in the bottom is what's called the primer, and there's a hole that the primer fills. So when you pull the trigger of a gun, it strikes the primer, it emits a flash, ignites the propellant, creates pressure, and that pressure forces the projectile or the bullet down the barrel.
So that would be part of ballistics, would be to be able to identify whether something is or is not ammunition, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, drawing your attention, sir, to the date of February 5th of 2015, at or around 7 in the morning or so, do you recall where you were?
Yes,
Where were you?
in the town of Bourne.
And how is it that you came to be in the town of Bourne?
I was called by the duty office in D Troop, the duty lieutenant.
And what's D Troop?
D Troop is one of the patrol areas that we have on the state police. There's A, B, C, D, E, F, and H. D Troop covers the southeastern portion of Massachusetts, and the duty lieutenant, he is the one who receives all the phone calls and requests for service. He summons me to Bourne.
And how did you get to Bourne?
I drove in my police cruiser.
And what happened once you got there? Into Bourne?
I met up with the detectives from the state police, detective unit assigned to the Cape and Islands District Attorney's Office.
All right, and just yes or no, did you have some conversation with them?
Yes.
And after that, what did you do?
I assessed the area.
Okay. And was it basically that you then went, where did you go? Let me answer that.
We went to behind a condo where we recovered a .22 caliber rifle.
That's exhibit 43. Might just look at them.
So,
Do you recognize the photographs that are depicted in exhibit 43?
yes.
And is that what you were just speaking of?
Yes.
And could you point out, if you can, whichever lettered photograph depicts the item you were speaking of?
Pardon my back. D?
KD, so that amateurs can see. And when you first got there, was that weapon in that same condition as depicted in that photograph?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you do with respect to that item?
When I recover evidence, we look at the way the evidence is sitting, we describe what the evidence is, and then I collect the evidence.
And what evidence did you collect from that area?
It was the weapon itself, I believe a magazine and ammunition. Yes, there are, sir.
I'd ask if you kind of look at this and tell me if you can identify what this is. What is it?
This is a magazine.
And what do you mean by saying magazine?
A magazine is a detachable part of a firearm in which you load ammunition, live ammunition inside of it, and then you insert it in the firearm so that it stores ammunition, so when you want to pull the trigger, it's There's spring tension that's pushing up, so and when you load it, you push it down so that when you pull the trigger, it will feed the ammunition into the weapon.
And with respect to the weapon that was there, was that an automatic or semi-automatic or not automatic? What kind of weapon was that?
Semi-automatic.
What does that mean?
A semi-automatic weapon is a weapon that once there's a loaded round in the chamber and you pull the trigger, it'll fire the weapon, it will extract and eject the empty cartridge case, it will feed the next live cartridge. What happens when you pull the trigger, the bullet goes down the barrel, the equal and opposite reaction is the bolt, which is a heavy part of the firing mechanism, goes back, the spring tension is pushing up, the live cartridge is at the top, the bolt comes forward, it will load another live cartridge, but it won't shoot again. So a semi-automatic is really an auto-loading, so you pull the trigger, it will shoot, it will eject the empty cartridge to make room for the live one, but it won't shoot again until you pull the trigger.
If you be kind enough just to look at, it's got marked as Exhibit 49A, do you recognize that?
Yes,
What is that?
this was the weapon that's depicted in photo D.
And when you were just explaining how this magazine worked, what would happen if you were to pull the trigger and the process you just described with the bullet coming up from the magazine? What would happen to the one, if there was one already in the chamber?
A live one in the chamber?
Yes.
If you pulled the trigger with the live one in the chamber, exactly what I said would happen. It would fire, eject, extract and eject, and load another live cartridge without firing again.
And what would happen to that cartridge that was ejected?
It would come out what's called the ejection port, which is right here. And it would eject, typically, generally speaking, they eject to the right and to the rear. So if I'm holding the weapon, it's going to go back, as such.
Yeah, but that's certainly subject to whether it hits something or if the weather's, if there's wind or rain or snow or whatever, right?
Exactly.
All right. Now, if you could get, so you've indicated that this item was found with that gun, right?
Yes.
I'd offer this, Your Honor, as an exhibit.
No objection.
Next number exhibit.
I can say just A and B with the next one. That's gonna be-
A, the magazine, B, I assume the ammunition.
92A and B.
Now, with respect to what's been marked now as 92A here, could you tell us how many rounds, I'm going to use it, is that the correct term?
Yep, that's acceptable.
How many rounds would this hold?
Your backs to some of the jurors, Mr. Coney.
How many rounds would this hold?
I'd like to refresh my memory.
Go ahead.
Thank you. 25.
And when you found it, can you tell us how many were in it, if any?
It had 25.
And you kind of look at this item and tell us what that is. And what is that?
It's 22 long rifle caliber live ammunition.
And would that fit into this magazine?
Yes.
Okay. And was that found with this magazine?
Yes.
You know, I'd offer this as B.
No objection.
Same item number, B.
92B.
I got just a second.
Take your time, counsel.
Protect that, please.
Certainly. Want to put them back in the envelope?
Not just yet.
Okay.
If you would be kind enough to look at what has been marked here as Exhibit 52, looking for yourself to look at it.
Okay.
Can you find where these two are listed on this chart?
It would be G, H, and I.
Well, if you could look,
You mean the actual envelope?
yeah,
I don't see the actual envelope. Oh, the limbs number, okay. So it's 15-2899 3-5.1 is G.
So it would be G, if I could just come up there. And if you'd be kind enough just to point out.
Sure.
And with the court's permission, I would ask that he indicate where that was located on the exhibit.
You may.
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
You can step down and approach the
Thank
exhibit,
you, Ron.
Lieutenant.
Give me time just to put under G where those were located.
I don't understand.
Where did you find, where was this, those bullets found at the scene?
My notes.
Correct. While he's looking for that, let me ask you another question. Did you have occasion to take this item and test fire?
Yes.
Tell us about that, please.
It's similar to the process I described. To examine the weapon, I brought it to my work area. I wrote down the type of weapon it is, the caliber, the serial number, and then seeing that the barrel wasn't obscured, I went into the test fire room and I test fired the weapon into the water tank.
And what happened when you did that?
The weapon fired.
And in order to test fire it, what did you use for your ammunition?
I used a submitted ammunition.
Okay, so you used 1 round?
Yes,
Okay, and yeah, it's actually noted there, correct?
yes.
Did you do anything with respect to the test fire round?
I just gave it a LIMS number, a sample number, and I put it in the envelope.
Is that what this is?
Yes.
I'd offer this, Your Honor.
No objection.
And I'd ask that it be
C.
Yes.
Same exhibit number, C.
92C.
Do you recognize this item? It's exhibit 49A or B?
Yes.
What was that?
I believe it's a handle for the front of the weapon. It goes along, there's a rail that goes along the rail.
If you could just point this out for us.
Along here.
If you'd be kind enough to look at this item, just look at it yourself, and just tell me if you recognize what that is.
Yes,
Did you see those items?
yes.
Where did you see them?
With the weapon.
You know, I'd offer these two as for 50/50 AB.
No objection.
Next number and subparts.
Number 93A and B.
If the magazine could be And now, with respect to 93A, what is that, please?
93A is a magazine that should hold 22 long rifle caliber ammunition,
How many?
25.
And with respect to 93B, what is that, please?
This is 22 long rifle caliber ammunition.
And would that fit into this 93A?
Yes,
And I neglected to ask you with respect to, what was the exhibit number for the bullets in the last, please?
92B.
So 92B, those bullets, did you examine those to see if they were or not ammunition?
yes,
And what was your conclusion as to that?
their ammunition.
in respect to this, which would be 93B, same question.
Yes, it's ammunition.
Thank you. And if you be kind of look at what's in that bag, please.
Certainly.
And what is that?
Again, this is a magazine that is designed for .22 long rifle live ammunition
Now it's found where?
with the rifle.
And with respect to this item?
This is .22 long rifle caliber ammunition.
And I'd offer this as a composite exhibit as well.
No objection.
Next number, A and B.
94A, 94B.
And if I asked you this already, I apologize, but how many rounds would 94A hold?
25.
And did you observe the bullets in 94B as to whether they were or not ammunition?
They're ammunition.
If you'd be kind enough, sir, just to mark on the diagram where these items are found.
Both .2 and .2.
So after making the observations at 21 Roundhouse Road, did you go someplace else?
Yes.
And would you have, tell us where you went, just tell us where.
We went to 71 Roundhouse Road.
Okay. And where did you go at 71 Roundhouse Road?
We went to the rear deck, outside, on the rear deck.
And what observations did you make there?
There were 2 large cardboard boxes, and laying across it was a tactical belt, and there was a rifle that was there as well.
So if you kind of look at what is marked previously as exhibit number 50, if you could just stand on the side. Need to use a pointer. And could you tell us what's depicted in these photos?
These are the 2 large boxes I spoke of. That's the tactical belt.
Okay, and that you're referring to photo B?
B, yep.
Go ahead.
And actually see the better picture, if I may use C. So in C, 2 large cardboard boxes. I have the tactical belt lying here, and atop the largest, top box is a rifle.
Okay, now what about D here? What does that show?
D is a close-up of the rifle, and E is a close-up of the tactical belt.
Now, in photo D, is there something that's separated from the rifle?
Yes, there's a magazine sitting on top.
And also in D, do you recognize what's depicted where I'm pointing right there?
Yes.
What are those?
That's the edge of the end of the tactical belt, and there's 2 magazines on it. In it.
And is that depicted better in E?
Yep, same picture, right here where I'm pointing, it's the magazine.
And did you notice other things with respect to that tactical belt?
Yes,
Tell us about that, please.
there was a firearm in the holster.
And what type of firearm?
It's a handgun?
And that's also depicted in E
Yes,
and in F better, correct?
correct.
And what about in E? Was that of any significance to you?
They're a pair of hearing protection earmuffs.
And is that something that someone that would use weapons would commonly have, or?
Yes.
In other words, were those designed for firearms or were they designed for something else? If you know.
I didn't examine them originally, but just looking at them, that would be something you wear for hearing protection.
All right. And in photograph G, when you were there, did you observe something in photograph G?
Yes.
What was that?
Right here in G is against the door, the sliding door frame is a live cartridge.
And what does live cartridge mean?
A live cartridge, to someone who's a firearms examiner, means that the bullet, if I can use picture H, you can see that on the very tip, you can see the bullet is seated there, the projectile, and you can't see it, but as a firearms examiner, I would check the bottom to look at the primer to make sure it's not dimpled with the firearm.
And when you were describing how a projectile, for lack of a better word, worked, so you're saying this is an intact projectile, in other words, right?
Correct.
Is the top part is pictured there, and it hasn't separated from the casing, in other words, right?
Correct.
After it would, as if it were fired.
Correct.
Now, in photograph I, you might have to take a closer. Is there some items in photograph I that you observed related to?
It looked, I believe, as red-brown stain.
Did you have did you have a better chance to look at that?
I don't recall.
That's fine. Okay, thank you. And if you could retake the same thing.
Sure.
Sir, could you look at this item and identify this for me, please?
Certainly. Got it.
Chamber's cleared.
Yes, Your Honor. It has the lock in it.
Thank you.
What is that?
This is the rifle in the photograph.
And could you describe what significance that rifle had for you as a ballistician when you saw it? And as it's not.
It was evidence?
Okay, but what type of rifle is
Oh,
it?
okay.
This is what I'm asking.
All right. It's a 5.56 millimeter Smith & Wesson M&P 15 model, and it's a semi-automatic rifle.
And again, semi-automatic means what?
That when I pull the trigger, it will shoot, eject, reload, but not shoot again.
If you keep pulling the trigger, what happens?
It will shoot until you run out of ammunition.
And that's fair to say it had this light attached to it at the time?
Yes.
Okay. Can I offer this as an exhibit?
No objection.
Next number exhibit.
Number 95.
Would you be kind enough to look at this item and recognize what this is?
Yes.
What is that?
This is a magazine that was with the weapon.
And what about the other items, sir?
This is the ammunition that was with the weapon.
I'd offer these now.
No objection.
Next number, A and B.
$96A. $96B.
Now, with respect to item 96A, how many rounds would that hold?
This would hold 30 live cartridges.
And how many did it have in it when you observed it, I should say?
It had 19,
And those would be in this bag here?
yes,
And did you examine what's in that bag as to whether it is or is not ammunition?
yes,
And what was your opinion?
it is ammunition.
And if you be kind enough just to indicate
Okay.
on this chart here where that was from. Can you find in those photographs which one depicts that?
F?
Let's put this up there. You're saying F.
Yes.
If you be kind enough just to mark, oh, you got it, where that was from. Now, did you ever, oh, let's put this. Did you have an opportunity to testify on this item?
Yes.
And could you tell us what you did and what happened?
Same thing, went into the test fire room after noting the caliber and such on my notes and fired it into the water tank.
And did it fire?
Yes,
So it was an operative firearm?
yes. A rifle.
Right, I'm sorry. And do you recognize what this is?
Yes.
What is it?
This is the test fire.
That could be C. I offer that.
No objection.
That could be C.
It's exhibit number sub C.
Thank you.
96C.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, did you collect, you've already identified some of these other items, did you collect anything else while you were there?
Some things I've already mentioned,
No, well,
beyond what I've mentioned?
in other words, did you collect a handgun?
Yes.
Let's look at this. Do you recognize the Bible?
Yes, it's empty, Your Honor. Yes,
And what is that?
this was the firearm depicted in photographs, the handgun.
And I'd offer this as an exhibit.
No objection.
Next number exhibit.
I'd ask it to be A, because there'll be things that go with it.
97A.
And with respect to this item, could you identify that for us?
It's a 9mm caliber. The brand is Walther, the manufacturer. The model number is P99A as in Apple, 8. It's a semi-automatic pistol.
If you'd be kind enough, well, let me ask you this. When you first saw that weapon, was there something in it?
Yes,
What?
it was a magazine.
Okay. If you'd be kind enough, look at this item and tell us who knows what that is.
Yes,
What is that?
this is a magazine.
I'd offer this, you know.
No objection.
Next letter in the series of that exhibit.
97B.
And do you know where 97B was?
It was within the handgun.
Okay. Was there anything in 97B?
Yes.
If you kind of have to look at this, tell me if you recognize what that is.
Yes.
What is that?
It's 9mm ammunition.
I'd offer this.
No objection.
Next letter in the series.
97C.
And do you know where these items were?
Those were inside the magazine.
And did you have an opportunity to look at, observe this, to come to a conclusion as to whether it is or is not ammunition?
Yes,
What was your conclusion?
it's ammunition.
Now, did you have an occasion to test fire this weapon?
Yes.
Tell us about that, please.
Again, after taking the appropriate notes, I went into the test fire room and I shot the weapon into the water tank.
And did it operate functionally?
Yes, it fired.
And do you recognize what that is?
This is a live cartridge.
Do you know where that was found?
I don't recall.
Here.
I want to get that.
And by the way, what would this, I'm pointing to a portion of the handgun. What is this?
You're pointing at that?
Yes.
This is a flashlight, and I believe there's a laser on the bottom
And
for aiming.
thank you. You recognize what this is?
Yes.
What is that?
These are test fires from the handgun.
You're not offer this as the next letter in the sequence.
No objection.
Next letter in the sequence.
97D.
And if you'd be kind enough to just come down and show us or indicate on where that item was found.
Which item in particular?
The one we just went to
The handgun?
no, the actual magazine, I'm sorry.
It's letter B.
If you just mark that, please. Thank you. Now, with respect, you recognize this item?
Yes.
And what is this, please?
That was the tactical belt that was depicted in the photographs.
You're not offer this?
No objection.
All right. Next exhibit.
98.
Now, when you looked at this at the scene, there were things that aren't here now there, right?
Yes.
On that belt?
Yes.
Could you tell us and point to what was where, if anything?
This is a holster. This had the firearm, the handgun in it. These are referred to as magazine pouches or magazine holders. This is where the magazines would go. These also are magazine pouches or magazine holders. This is where the larger ammunition would go. So these would be magazines for the handgun, and this would be magazines for the rifle, two. So 2 holders for the handgun, 2 holders for the rifle.
And these other things are pouches that aren't designed necessarily for anything, just to hold items, correct?
Yes.
If you'd be kind enough to look at this item, please, because we can recognize what this is.
This is the magazine, this item right here. And there's ammunition in this envelope.
You know, I'd offer these.
No objection.
Number exhibit, A for the magazine, B for the ammunition.
99A and B.
Can you tell me where this item was found at the scene?
I believe it was found on the belt.
And do you have an opportunity to look at these items in here?
Yes,
And did you form an opinion as to whether they were or not ammunition?
yes,
And what was that opinion?
they're ammunition.
And were they inside this clip?
Yes,
And how many rounds does this clip hold?
15,
And how many were in?
15.
And could you show us again on this chart, and just label where that was found? No, the one that I just showed you, yes. If you cannot go to this item, tell me if you can put that correct.
Yes,
And what is that?
it's a magazine.
And was that at the scene?
Yes,
And I'd offer this as an exhibit?
No objection.
Next number, A,
100A.
If you look at that, can you bring it that is?
it's ammunition.
Do you know what that was?
Yes,
Where?
it was inside that magazine.
And where was that magazine from?
It was found at the location, 71 Roundhouse was in the tactical belt.
You know, I'd offer this as an exhibit.
No objection.
same number, B,
100B.
And did you have an opportunity to examine these items as to whether or not they were ammunition?
Yes,
And what was your opinion concerning that?
they're ammunition.
And how many, I'm sorry if I should ask you this, but how many did this clip hold?
15.
15. Now, if we could take one of these out. Is there anything significant about the tip of that piece of ammunition?
Yes.
Tell us about that, please.
This particular type of projectile is a hollow point, and it's manufactured by Hornady. That's the type of
And what
manufacture.
does hollow point mean?
Generally speaking, there's two types of bullets, two types of projectiles. One is a round nose, which is exactly what you think. It's completely solid, and it's round at the top. A hollow point has, a hollow point, it's, I guess, concave, which would allow for, when it strikes something, it will expand, a hollow point. A round nose typically does not expand, but a hollow point, when it strikes something, that hollow point now will pedal back, and it will increase the size of the projectile when it strikes something.
If you'd be kind enough to indicate on the board where this item was found. Okay. Sure something. And now it's 71 rounds, right?
Yes.
If you kind of look at this item, tell me how much it
Yes.
What is that?
This is a magazine for a 5.56 by 45 live cartridge.
And was that at the scene too?
Yes.
Okay. Would offer this, Your Honor?
Objection.
Next number, A.
Number 101A.
And this item, could you tell me if that's what's in there?
Yes.
And what is that?
This is the 5.56 by 45 millimeter live ammunition.
You're not offer this?
No objection.
B, same number.
101B.
Now, where were the items in 101B found?
They were found within the tactical belt.
Okay, in this,
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, the ammunition was in the magazine.
hey, would this be the round that would fit inside
Yes,
the magazine? And how many does this magazine hold?
10.
Thank you. Here, now this item.
Yes,
And what is that?
this is a magazine.
And where was that found?
This was found on the tactical belt.
I'd offer this, Your Honor.
Okay.
Next number, A.
102A.
Can I ask if you look at this, please? Could you testify this?
Yes,
What is that?
this is the 5.56 by 45 millimeter live ammunition.
Can I offer this?
No objection.
Same series, B.
Number 102B.
In respect to what has been marked as 102B, do you know where that was found at the scene?
Yes,
Where?
that was within the magazine.
And how many rounds would this magazine hold?
30.
In respect to these rounds, did you notice anything about the tips of those rounds?
Yes.
And could you tell us about that, please?
Again, these have a hollow point, although it's, because it's a smaller caliber, it's a smaller hole, a smaller, I guess you could call it a hole, concave portion of the tip.
And do you have an opportunity to view those and form an opinion as to whether they are or not ammunition?
Yes,
And what was your opinion?
they're ammunition.
If you'd kind of show us on the board with, or where they're indicated.
Yes.
And what is that?
It's a magazine.
And where was that?
This was found, this was found with the tactical belt.
Can I offer this?
No objection.
Next number, A.
103A.
Kind of look at this item, do you recognize what that is?
Yes.
What is that?
This is live 5.56 by 45 ammunition.
I'd offer this as the next.
No objection.
Same sub, B.
Number 103B.
And were you able to determine how many rounds this mechanism would hold?
Yes,
How many?
30.
And were you able to observe these?
Yes,
And did they conform to what would be considered to be ammunition in your opinion?
yes.
And where were these found?
Those were in the magazine.
If you'd be kind enough to indicate on the chart where these were.
Letter E?
If you could just mark that. Thank you. Do you have occasion to observe this item while you were there? No. Okay. I apologize, I think I forgot to ask you to mark where you found the handgun and the clip that was in the handgun. Did you mark on this handgun?
I don't recall if I did.
Would you kind of-
Oh, certainly. What would you like again?
The magazine and the clip that were in the handgun.
Okay, look at my notes.
Go right ahead, yes.
To answer your question, the magazine and clip in the handgun is letter A.
You could just mark that down, please. Can I ask if you can approach this item? You recognize what this is?
Yes.
What is that?
This is a magazine designed to hold 22 long rifle live ammunition.
I would offer that, Your Honor.
No objection.
Well, it's a magazine designed to hold the ammunition. You haven't made it relevant yet.
Where was this from?
That was found in the parking lot of number 9 Roundhouse.
I'd offer it.
Next Next number, A.
Number 104A.
And what is this item there?
It is live .22 long rifle caliber ammunition.
Do you know where that was found?
Yes,
Where?
in that magazine.
Not off of this?
No objection.
Same series, B.
104B.
And were you able to make observations of that, those items, form an opinion as to whether they are or are not ammunition?
Yes,
What was that opinion?
their ammunition.
And if you'd be kind enough to just indicate on the chart here where, which picture depicts those?
I don't see it on this.
You could just
So it
mark
would
that.
be item J1, excuse me, picture J1.
And the ammunition would be J2?
Yes.
If you could just indicate where that was found, maybe between the two
Sure.
J's. Thank you. Now, when you were making these observations behind 71 Roundhouse, were you alone or with other people?
I was with other people.
And do you know who they were by any chance?
It was Lieutenant David Cahill from my firearms identification section, Trooper Glenn Cote, and I believe Trooper Bankston was there as well.
Peter Bankston?
Yes,
And do you know what unit or subsection of the
Certainly.
state police he's attached to?
he's assigned to the crime scene services section, and they do photographs, fingerprints, and video.
Okay. Now, after the observations you made at 71, what's the next thing that you did?
We went to we went to a parking lot where a car was hit with a projectile.
Dennis, can you kind of just look at this, familiarize yourself, come to recognize this position on this board?
Yes,
You know, those very accurate depictions of what's depicted,
yes.
you know, on top of this?
No objection.
Yeah, next number, exhibit. Are they fair and accurate depictions of what's depicted?
Well, I didn't want to say what they were without them first being introduced.
I see.
So actually, if you could just come down here for a second and just. If you could use this so that the jurors can see. Can you tell us what's depicted in photograph A on exhibit 105?
A is two vehicles parked in a parking lot.
And B?
B is the trunk, rear right trunk portion of this vehicle to the left, this, I believe it was a Subaru.
And you're pointing to the dark automobile here that's next to a white automobile in photograph A, right?
Correct.
And what significance, if any, did that item there that you pointed on B have for you?
When I observed that, I noticed that was consistent with a bullet hole.
And what about C? What does that?
C is a picture of the vehicle in B with the trunk open.
When the trunk was open, were you able to make observations inside the automobile?
Yes.
And is what's depicted in picture D, consistent with the observations you made?
With the exception, that's my envelope for contrast with the picture, but that's a fragment from a bullet.
All right. And that was found in the trunk of the car, correct?
Correct.
And what about E and F? Did you have make observations of those while you were there?
Yes.
But your job was more ballistics, correct?
Correct.
All right. Go back to the scene, just tell me to recognize what that is.
Yes.
What is that, please?
This is a fragment.
And where was that found?
This was found on the trunk.
Cut off this one.
No objection.
Next number.
Number 106.
After making, well, first of all, I'm sorry, again, I don't know if I answered this already. If I did, I apologize, but that was a fragment of what?
Unknown.
Unknown what, though?
Exactly. I don't know if it was part of the trunk or if it was part of the projectile. It had no microscopic marks on it.
Okay. What's the next thing you did at that scene?
From that scene, we try to establish from where the projectile came from. And from that picture, the projectile, if you're looking at that picture, came from the right. From my training experience and having seen hundreds, if not 1,000 bullet holes. At which point, I stayed at the trunk and I had Lieutenant Cahill go next to, it ended up being 77 roundhouse. And he looked around in the snow and he found some items.
And did he draw your attention to those items?
Yes,
And did you then go and make observations of those items?
yes.
I'd ask if you look at the photos depicted on this board, do you recognize what they show?
Yes,
And are they fair and accurate depictions of how that looked on the date of February 5th of 2015?
yes.
You know, I offer this.
No objection.
Next number, exhibit.
7.
Would you be kind enough just to come and use the pointer? And so, first, you recognize what's depicted in A.
Yes.
Okay? Could you tell us what that is? Just moving to the side so everybody can still see. Sure. Good.
This is the side of 77 Roundhouse, and looking through the trees would be the two cars that were parked in the area photograph.
And photograph D, does that depict the door to 77?
Yes.
Now, with respect to B and C, you recognize what those depict?
Yes.
Tell us, please, what are those?
That's a different, or actually, it's a better view of, from 77, looking into that parking lot where the two vehicles were.
And you recognize what's depicted in E?
Yes.
What is that, please?
These are 5.56 by 45 millimeter discharge cartridge cases,
And where were they?
lying in the snow.
Now, obviously, the 21 was something that the state police put there,
Yes.
but the other items were just in the snow there, correct?
Yes.
And what about in F?
F shows another discharge cartridge case lying in the snow pavement.
And you may have already said this, but also discharge means that it's been fired, correct?
Correct.
And could you tell us, by looking at that piece of spent cartridge, or whatever you want to call it, what type of weapon fired that? If you know,
A weapon capable of chambering 5.56 by 45 millimeters would be a rifle.
and just while you're here, at some point you have occasion to notice something else in the snow as you were doing your tour around the area?
Yes.
What was that?
It's in both of these photos. It's called a GoPro, I believe.
Okay. And your job wasn't to collect that, you saw that, made note of it? Is that
Yes.
fair to say? And that would be G, the little black item there,
Yes.
and H is pretty much a close-up of that, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Just a moment, please, Mr. Glenny.
Yes.
So the machine ran out of charge. I'm so sorry.
Quite all right, Linda. Jurors, make no mistake as to who truly runs this courtroom.
He was in a better. Go to that. I'll stop.
Thank you.
Now, with respect to the spent cartridges that you saw, what did you do with them, if anything?
I collected them, brought them back to the lab, submitted them for prints and DNA examination.
You'd be kind enough just look through this on, can you tell us what those are? What are those?
These are the discharge cartridge casings depicted in the photos.
And I'd offer these as a composite.
No objection.
X number exhibit. To be bound together, I believe you had an elastic, did you, Mr.?
Yes, sir.
Lenny, thank you. Bind them together. And if you want, Mr. Clerk, you can put them in a larger envelope.
Number 108.
Thank you.
After making those observations, what, if anything, did you do?
From there, we went to, there was a spot in the road that looked like there was a vehicle that was there that was like a burn spot, and there was some projectiles lying in the road.
Is it fair to say that by the time you went there, that there was not an automobile, it had been taken away?
I believe it was gone, yes.
And what observations did you make?
Let me leap to another issue. Did you eventually get to 11 Round Hill and do some work?
Yes.
What are you doing Tuesday at 9 a.m.? You gonna be with us?
I couldn't think of anything. I'd rather be, anywhere I'd rather be.
Okay. Not only have we exhausted the stenographer's batteries, but we've exhausted the jurors. They've had a long enough day.
Yes, sir.
And you're gonna do number 11. be with us a while. All right, you can step aside,
Thank you, Your
sir.
Honor.
Tuesday morning, please, sir, 9 a.m.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy.
Jurors, ever faithful, all my admonitions. You've got a long weekend. Now, with a long weekend on Cape Cod being Labor Day weekend may come unwanted or wanted house guests or any number of other social situations. You may find yourself in. You don't discuss it with anybody, and you don't let them discuss it with you. See you Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Ready to go with the jury. We'll put you to work. Thank you.
Jurors, all rise, please.
All right, the jurors are out of the room. Counsel, anything further on this case today?
Nothing from the defense, Your Honor.
Attorney Glennie, anything further?
I can't think of anything right now.
All right. 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, we'll resume. Linda, you'd be kind enough to take a minute, see if you can do that research I asked you to, and I'll see counsel in the lobby as to scheduling.
All rise.